Okay, so, um, my next video and final question as of this moment is an impossible hypothetical. Everyone on Earth disappears for 2 days. It's not the apocalypse, it's not a bad thing. You just have a rare opportunity and everything still functions as usual. For travel, someone will appear to do nothing more than take you where you want to go, then vanish. Uh, Question 1. If you could have the entire world all to yourself for 2 days, how would you spend your time? Question 2. If you could have the same situation and timeline, adding whomever you choose, would you do anything differently? Um, this is an this is an interesting question for me because it is not at all unusual for me to go longer than 2 days without seeing another human being in person. And quite honestly, as much as I enjoy the internet interaction, um, if I could vanish into a pocket dimension or visit a parallel empty Earth for like a couple of weeks at a time, it would not exactly. That's I would just do that to de-stress. So, my first response to this would be to say I wouldn't really do anything different. I would just chill out and enjoy my 2 days. But then I think about the fact that I would have opportunities to do other things, and I try to think about what they would be. Um, I can't do commerce with people, which means if I go anywhere retail-y or food-oriented, I'm going to be stealing. You do not specify if there's any consequences for what I do during the 2 days. I suppose it's likely I would probably take advantage of the opportunity being afforded me to acquire things I can't otherwise get at some point. Um, or possibly work some mischief in the direction of, well, if this were, if these 2 days were falling before the election, I would definitely be taking advantage of the magical transportation gnomes in order to get some inside dirt on some of the major Republican races and try to influence things. In the absence of that opportunity, quite possibly I would target one of the banks, or it's really there are just too many potential targets for 48 hours to. This is one of the things where I would probably try to do something, but unless I were actually in the situation and it was down to the wire, I'm not sure that I could make up my mind. So I'm going to ignore the possibility of doing anything that has any consequences for the rest of the world during my time. And you know what I would do? I would take advantage of the fact that the streets are completely empty and there is no such thing as a police officer for 48 hours, and I would drive. Um, I have I have some physical and cognitive disabilities that make it very, very difficult for me to pilot an automobile, but I also have a learning style that is just not at all accommodated. Um, I think I could probably have gotten my license if I could learn to drive the way I learned to do everything else, which is to go away from other people and just shut myself up by myself, figure out what I'm doing. I'll have whatever written material, including or advice from other people. I'm not saying I figure everything out on my own, but I work out how to do it for myself. And you can't really learn to drive that. There's no, you know, trying to do something in front of a skilled person, a skilled driver, um, who's sitting there watching your every move. It's not the ideal way for me to learn anything, especially anything as stressful as piloting a more than a mass of metal and plastic and thing that weighs more than a ton. It's just I think I could have learned to drive much better on my own. It's like the difference between trying to learn a video game when I'm alone in the house and trying to have somebody sit there telling me, okay, now press this button, now press this, it's just doesn't work for me. And even if I did not manage in 48 hours to learn how to drive well enough to pass a driving test, I would still have the experience. Um, you know, and the other part about what's bad about how people learn how to drive is, like, when you go out and start practicing driving on the street, you're immediately driving in full traffic conditions, at full traffic speed, whatever that is. Like, you can't go out and practice on a highway without driving at highway speed. Um, and, you know, there isn't really much of a way around that in everyday life, but if I had the world to myself for 48 hours, I could do that. Part two of the question. Well, if I were doing some sort of big scheme to get inside information on whatever I end up targeting, I would probably enlist the aid of other people. But if this is just 48 hours, that's just time in a bubble, um, yeah, that would just be me. I, being in a long distance relationship, extra time with my boyfriend is always a good thing, and so if there was not a prospect of seeing him in the near future, and if we weren't within spitting distance of a finish line on the whole long distance part of the relationship, I might say, "Oh yes, let's bring him in." But there's nothing I really want to. Yeah, I don't want. I can't imagine what we would do during bubble time that we couldn't do outside of it. Possibly there would be places he'd want to visit that he'd rather visit while it's empty. So I don't know. I might run the possibility by him. But I mean, if the magic empty world arranging genie gave me enough notice, that is. But other than that, no. I would just be on my own in an empty world and actually pretty content with that. And since this is my last video of the night, I'm also going to share the tidbit that after Jack listened to my video about Seth MacFarlane, he said when I was doing Brian's lines from the ball bit, it pretty much just sounds like me when we're doing pet play together, so possibly that's why it amuses me so much. That's all the questions that I received, and so I'm going to go throw this video up, and good night, Tumblr.